Welcome, everyone. We're really happy that you are joining us today. This is our 34th Salon for the Maternal Gift Economy Breaking Through series, hosted by Genevieve Vaughan and the International Feminists for the Gift Economy. My name is Letecia Layson. Today, we are really pleased to have with us women who started at the very beginning and at different times of the Foundation for the Compassionate Society. We have Genevieve Vaughan, Sally Jacques, Frieda Werden, and Chique Estrada. Today, Jen is going to give us an overview of the foundation, and then Sally, Frieda, and Chique will speak for about 10 minutes, which should give us plenty of time for questions, comments. You can read the extended versions of our of the bios for each of these women on the website maternalgifteconomymovement.org. But Jen Vaughan is an independent researcher who lives part-time in Italy and part-time in Texas. And she created the multicultural all-woman activist foundation for a compassionate society that began in 1987 through 2005. And there are many other things that Jen has done, but today this will be her focus, and she'll talk to you about how many of the other experiments with the maternal gift economy birthed out of the work of the foundation and setting up the foundation. So Genevieve, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Letecia. I want to tell you about how I started in the foundation and why I did the foundation, and then what we did and who was involved in it. For some reason, as a child, I already realized that something was really wrong in our society. And so I started looking for what it was in a way. And I went away to school in a boarding school, a girls' boarding school, when I was 12. And then I was in a women's college after that. And so I had an experience of being with women for 8 years. And then after that, I got married and moved to Italy, and got a divorce after maybe 10, 15 years, and joined the feminist movement in Italy. And it was a very strong, wonderful movement. And so I learned the politics of Italy, and I learned feminism in Italy, and as a view of a very different philosophy and worldview that came out of the women's movement that was then, as now, part of the international women's movement. And so after I got a divorce, and even before, I wanted to do whatever I could for social change. And I had early on, while I was in Italy, gotten this idea of the maternal gift economy. And I talk about that in a number of other places, so I won't go into it right now. I won't go into how I got the idea and for how long I worked on it. And then I wrote a couple of papers and stuff on it. But after I did that, I came back to the United States, and I had been, like I said, working on the theory of the gift economy for this period of time. And after I got back to the United States, I tried to talk about the theory to people, and nobody understood it. And I had inherited some money, and I'd asked my cousin, Sissy Farrenthal, to help me find ways of using the money for social change. And she did, and we did that for a while. But as I was doing that, I was trying to not be public in doing it because it seemed like a patriarchal thing to do. And so I kind of hid behind Sissy and we did it anyway. And then I realized, you know, nobody understands why I'm doing this. Nobody understands what the theory is. So I have to do the practice. And that is, I'll have to come out and be public doing the practice and try to do a practice that involves a lot of women, that's part of the feminist movement, and that is an expression of the gift economy, the practice of the gift economy. So I hired lots of women along the way and started doing different projects, and women who did each of those projects was like empowered to do gift giving, in the sense that those projects were usually free to the receivers. And so women who experienced the projects got to be the receivers and understand that there was a gift economy thing going on. And it was also a gift that was to the women who were doing the activism and the nurturing of these projects, because it allowed them to do gifting. And so it was a way of doing giving and receiving at different levels that I hoped would make the gift economy visible. And I think it did. We did it for many years. It started actually in 86 and ended more or less in 2005. Sally and Chique can tell you all, and Frieda can tell you all about the different projects that we did and they did, and a lot about how it was that when all of these women got together who were doing these different projects, there was a synergy, and it was in itself, it was a gift to know each other and work together. And in fact, I think we created a kind of blessed community where we had a solidarity in things that we were doing. But this didn't always arrive at people's consciousness, neither of the people that were doing the foundation, I think, nor in the consciousness of the people who were receiving the gifts. And so I had to write about it. And so I did go back to trying to do the theory of it. And I did do that. And my first book was in 1997. And the woman that was working in the foundation, Fern Hill, said, "Oh, now we know what we've been doing all these years, what we've been trying to do, been supposed to do." And so I was happy about that, but it's still always a kind of a juggling between theory and practice. And you can do the practice without even ever having the theory. And you can do the theory without actually knowing what the practice is. And I have been talking in these salons a lot about the theory now we've been doing, this is the 34th salon. So, and we've been talking about the theory in some extent in all of them. And we haven't been talking about the practice, and people are saying, what is the practice of the gift economy? Well, what I can say is just that the practice that I've done, and is now pretty invisible because there are a few of the projects left. A few of the people are doing their own thing and now that is still having to do with gift giving on their own, because I stopped the foundation in 2005 because I ended up giving up. I had oil and gas investments from my family and I sold all of those. And so I didn't have as much money anymore, and I couldn't continue to do that kind of large scale funding of a big organization. But while it lasted, I do think it was kind of a vision of another world, another kind of way of of acting and living that we need now too. And who knew back then that things were going to get worse and worse and worse like they are now? And who knew that we were going to actually have this tremendous environmental crisis, and we really need a way out. And if we can understand that we are really gift-giving people, that humans are basically a giving species, homo donans, that everybody is born from a mother, and babies have to have unilateral giving given to them, otherwise they can't survive. So everybody has that model from the beginning. And sometimes that model is spread wider in the community as it is in Native American communities. And sometimes it's restricted because the exchange economy, the market, capitalism, and patriarchy end up being parasitic on the gifts of everyone and on the earth. And so we have to untangle this tangle and make it so that we can see clearly how we need to create a community and many communities and interact across communities in a gifting way, rather than falling into the egotism that capitalism creates and into the living by force that patriarchy creates. So I want to now, I would just like to show you a little PowerPoint that Liliana Wilson has made of a few of the images of that she did over the years about the foundation projects. And this was the logo of the foundation for a compassionate society, meaning that the society is often cruel and we want our society to be compassionate. So you can see in this is the heart and the world turned upside down, in the sense of, let's put the Southern Hemisphere above and the Northern Hemisphere below for once, and change our point of view. So we look at the other instead of only at ourselves. So change the slide, please. One of our best projects, I think, was Stonehaven Ranch, which I got in, we started renting it in I think about 1984, and then actually bought it after that about 1986. And we had people coming every weekend. They had a free, people could come free for workshops, activities that they wanted to do, groups wanted to do. And it was a wonderful place near San Marcos, Texas. And it was usually free to the receivers. But sometimes the people who had workshops there just wanted to take the free part for themselves and not turn it over to the people who were assisting going to the workshops. So we had to kind of negotiate about that. But generally, it was a really cool place. And I thought, you know, people really have not received free gifts very much, especially as adults. And so this was a chance for them to experience that. And they, I think they appreciated it, and they understood that it was coming from a different place, that the gift economy did come from a different worldview. Can you change, please? Then I bought another piece of property in near Lake Travis, still in Austin, and I made it a center for social change, called it Alma de Mujer, which means soul of the woman, and asked Marcia Gomez, who was a wonderful indigenous Chicana activist and sculptor, to manage it. And she did, and it was very successful for quite a while, also doing a lot of gifting activities and everything. And then I ended up giving that space to the Indigenous Women's Network. And so they now have been running it for many years. Change, please. So Wings, Frieda Werden will tell you about it because she is the woman who did it and is continuing to do it now. It is a wonderful women's radio program that is syndicated in places all over the world. And Frieda has interviewed women and let their voices be heard everywhere and still hearable. So it's part of a huge contribution that Frieda has made to women's culture, feminist culture through these many years. Change, please. And Fire is another women's radio program that we did in Costa Rica with Catarina and Fossi and Maria Suarez. And they ran that program for, I think it was maybe 1991. What is it? I don't know if it says there, until maybe about 2010. I think the last 10 years of it was digital rather than in a shortwave radio station where they started it before. But they too collected women's thoughts and voices and interviewed women in Spanish and in English over all of that period of time. And that too was a gift to women to let their voices be heard and their opinions and their thoughts. And very diverse women from everywhere. Change, please. So WATER, Women's Access to Electronic Resources, was a house where we women taught women to use the electronic resources and do video and radio. And it was a wonderful place that was like a service to the community, and that was also free. Change, please. And this was a peace caravan that Susan Lee Solar took around the country talking about nuclear waste and against nuclear weapons. And when she went from little town to little town and talked about it and raised consciousness all over the country, but especially in Texas. And then she also went to Sierra Blanca. That was a town that was going to have a dump, a nuclear dump, and Aaron Rodgers and Susan and others who were working in the foundation made that nuclear dump not happen, and that was also a wonderful achievement, another big gift. Change, please. Casa de Colores was an old house that my mother had bought on the Rio Grande River, just right very near the Rio Grande River, and next to a kind of a jungle that was one little piece of jungle, the Palm Grove was called. And I took it over after my mother's death. I took it over and we used it as a museum of Chicana and Native history and art. And the people that were doing it, Helga Garcia Garza and her husband and her children, did danza, which is Chicana danza, and that was Aztec also. And so they did that, and they had conferences and involved people from both the United States and Mexico in these conferences. So that was also went on for quite a while. Change, please. And one of our also continuing projects is the Temple of Sekhmet in Cactus Springs, Nevada. And I started that because I had made a promise to the goddess Sekhmet in Egypt when I went there as a young married woman, that if I could get pregnant, I would build her a temple. And lo and behold, I got pregnant like 2 weeks later. And so I had to build the temple, and it took me a long time to do it. But finally, in 1992, I found some land there in Nevada near the nuclear test site. And I thought that that land would be really a good place to put the temple, because it's a place to take a stand for women's fertility, for nature's fertility against the nuclear weapons and the nuclear disaster. So we built the temple, and a lot of people helped do it. And I found a priestess that would take care of it and do ritual there. And then I gave the land back to the Shoshone, because that land all around there was originally theirs. And I had bought it from somebody who was, a Anglo guy who had bought it from other Anglo guys all along over the last century or two. And we were able to give back the land in 1992, which was the anniversary of the invasion of the Americas by the Europeans. And so it was very, very cool and significant to have been able to do that. And the Temple of Sekhmet continues today and is still an example of the gift economy. The Shoshone allow us to stay there. And there are women now that are their priestesses there, and they are doing their very best to practice the gift economy. So change, please. And this was the Grassroots Peace Organizations building. It was a building on the corner of 3rd and Congress, downtown Austin, where we had for offices for people in the peace movement. And it was great because that tiny little building confronted a lot of big office buildings and banks and so forth, and was right on Congress Avenue, which ends up in the capital of the state of Texas. So that was also a very great project, which we had for about 10 years, I guess, until I finally sold it. Change, please. And this is a statue of Madre del Mundo that Marcia Gomez, who was the woman that ran Alma de Mujer and had worked also at Stonehaven, made. She was a wonderful sculptor, and she made this beautiful sculpture, which is now in the Temple of Sekhmet. And there are 2 or 3 other copies of it in other significant places around the United States. So that's the end of that slideshow. And thank you all very much. The slideshow was made by Liliana Wilson, and the artwork in it is also hers. So thank you, and I'm so happy that you all have come, and looking forward to hear the rest of it myself too.
Thank you, Jen. What I loved you saying at the very beginning, that you often say that the gift economy is invisible, and you had this awareness that you needed to come from the anonymous donor to actually be a real person, so that people could understand what the gift economy was, and that unilateral expression that you had of your gifting, and how you demonstrated that through and with the people in the foundation. That's very beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And also I wanted to just mention, for those of you who do not know, all of our flyers are original, most of them in fact, I would say 99% of them are original artwork that's done by Liliana. So she continues to gift through our salons in the way that she offers the maternal gift economy. So thank you, Liliana, for that gift. It's very beautiful. Our next speaker is going to be Sally Jacques. Unfortunately, Sally will not be able to be with us the whole time, but she's going to be here as long as she can. Sally is the founder of Blue Lapis Light and creates specific aerial dance works that speak to social, political, and spiritual dilemmas. She's recognized for her efforts against human rights abuse, environmental endangerment, homelessness, and racism. Her activist views inform her artistic journey. And there is more about Sally at our website, but Sally, please welcome. And we look forward to hearing what you have to share about your experiences with the maternal gift economy and the foundation.
I think that we're shaped by our early influences. And certainly how I know Jen, she was and I was, and my life was not in a traditional sense of growing up as most people do in a nuclear family. So I witnessed and saw many things which shaped my passions and the path I pursued in life. I was always drawn to the arts and arts that and work that sort of spoke about the times we were living in. And so when I joined the foundation, first I met Jen because she was introduced to me as someone would help me get to live in a window for peace. And she did. And then I met with her and I joined the foundation and was able to both be an activist and be creative in the process of being an activist. So one of the first things that the Sierra Blanca, I'm going to take the different things that Jen bought. Sierra Blanca, we did a performance on the state capitol for Sierra Blanca, and we had recorded stories of women and people that were living on the border that were dying at a pretty big rate of breast cancer or some form of cancer. And then I did this work where there was a tribunal of judges that were performers and there were dancers that were on these huge balls that were like the global world. And you heard the voices of the people that lived on the border. And Bonnie Ray came down for that, and not for that, but to donate her time to give funding as well to the issue that was going on in Sierra Blanca. And it was a pretty wonderful combination of getting the political, as Jen does really well, getting those who are able to maybe influence change in policies at the governmental level. I don't think that exists anymore in the current system we are in. And then I did a piece on the border near the temple, which we all got arrested for, some of us anyway, to protest the nuclear weapons there in Las Vegas and the toxicity of those what we spend our money on that destroys the water, that destroys the environment, the surrounding environments for millions of years to come. So that was another one. And then what was happening in Austin was that many people were dying, were being removed from their homes. And homelessness in Austin increased with women and children having to live in their cars because they were 1 month away from being able to pay their rent. And when Reagan cut 75% of the affordable housing, it meant many women and children landed up living in their cars and on the street in Austin and around the country. So I had been living in the window for peace, and I had seeded this idea about beds being necessary for our health and our well-being. It's a place we reflect. It's the way our body renourishes itself. It's where we dream. And so I based it around the concept of the I Ching, the Chinese Book of Changes, where each hexagram depicts an emotional or a journey or a moment we will experience in our lives. So I based it having 64 beds, and those 64 beds were done by 64 visual artists, and we had an all-night performance that raised money for Hobo, and we were able to garner so much publicity that NBC came down and they landed up sending it out of the country. And so Hobo got $1 million Hog Foundation award for that. And then it toured to Washington Memorial, which is one of the most amazing things. Here we have 64 beds on the Jefferson Memorial, art beds. And then we for the all-night performance, we raised money, but people having to sponsor a bed, which we were able to donate to Caritas and Hobo. And so in Washington, we had representatives from the House and I think the Senate that came and slept in a bed. And I remember closing my eyes and thinking, wow, I'm not even American, and I'm facing the Potomac River with a full moon. It was just an amazing experience, and that got a lot of publicity. All of this was supported by Genevieve, and I just cannot express how much the reality of a working artist is not luxury. At the time, I was barely making it and barely had AC or heat in my house. You know, I was just driven by wherever I went in the world, and through Jen, that we were seeing tremendous poverty, and I felt like I lived like a queen in my little house, and compared to what I was seeing. And then going to the former Yugoslavia through the Foundation for a Compassionate Society, and you know, we went to the camps afterwards, and Frieda was with this, and seeing, you know, I remember this one boy screaming, and all these women coming from around to one of the camps and trying to console him, and the level of suffering, and you know, buildings destroyed, bullet holes, and just the stories, you know, being with the women in the camps. There were 86-year-old women, young children who had been raped. You know, it was a strategy of Milosevic's and Karadžić's, you know, war was to destroy, you know, through the ethnic situation, destroy the Muslims by raping them. And it was a mandate in their instructions. I mean, that always happens in war, but in this, it was just disgusting. And the massacre of young boys and men, and just being in that, and being a witness, and listening to stories at the 1992 World Congress, United Nations Conference on Human Rights, and listening to testimonies of women from around the world and the level of abuses committed on them, you know, done on them. It was just horrific. So I came back, and I couldn't really sleep very well. And so I started thinking about, well, what they need is medicines and medical supplies. So I asked Jen, I worked at getting the community, the city council to make an Austin to Bosnia week, and the city council did that, and then asked businesses to put huge drums outside so we could collect vitamins and pajamas and warm things that we could send over there. And this was an amazing experience for me, because I'd never done international stuff like that. And suddenly somebody gave me locally donated a warehouse that we could put it in. And then a trucking company said they would drive it up for free. And so there were just nights I was packing this stuff and getting it organized, and met incredible people. And there was eventually, I think it was a Senate member started the American Committee to Save Bosnia. I never really liked the title, but we went up there, and I was with Aaron Rodgers, and listened again to what was happening. And really, the United States was not doing much about it, and neither really was Europe. I think Clinton bombed somewhere in the middle there, bombed Sarajevo. And there were many, many stories that I gathered, and I often felt like, a wanderer, a seeker in the world, where I've heard stories from people in my early youth hitchhiking around Europe and meeting individuals and people with passion and who were considered wild or outside of the usual way of being in the world. And it was the same with my experience in the foundation, was how it was like this giant tree that connected me with so many people who told me stories about what was going on in Nicaragua, what was going in Central and South America, and all of the tragedies that they had lived through. And I remember holding a baby in one of the camps, and it didn't cry, and it didn't move. And I was doing every kind of thing I could do to get it to respond. And I realized it was fear. It just shut down out of the world out of fear. And then the women wanting us to share food with them. And all they had were potatoes and bread. And just wanted a piece of normality in the insanity they were living. And so, and then also, so that was that, and we got medicines and medical supplies out, and I connected to get it over with a woman in New York, Karen de Geer, and her husband had been one of the first peace activists that refused to go to war and was put in jail for it. And she helped get stuff over into the former Yugoslavia, and then it was picked up and trucked in, and it was really an amazing. I felt like I could start sleeping well, because I kept seeing faces of the women that I had seen when I was over there. And then in Casa de Colores, I went down there with Patty Salas, and we were going there because the factories there were contaminating the waters, and interviewing people that then went to fire, interviewing families that lived right on this toxic waste. And fire put those tapes out. And then Jennifer Harbury, who was down there, and working with her again. I don't know if many of you know, but she went on a 32-day hunger strike in front of the building where they took Mayan Indians and tortured them and dropped them out of planes. And she was there on this hunger strike, and she came through the foundation, and I met her, and we, through contacts that I had with the nuns, that had helped me get medicines and medical supplies. By the way, the nuns, I found a list of doctors for social response, Doctors Without Borders, all of those lists, and I would phone them all up to see if they would give me medicines, and they said, no, you're not a doctor, no. But I got this nun who said, oh, yeah, I'll get you, and she hooked me up with 18 hospitals, which meant we could get medicines and medical supplies that all went up and over to.
That's so beautiful, Sally. 2 minutes. Can you wrap it up in 2 minutes?
I'm okay. I'm done.
Yeah. Well,
there are many, many things that happened. In my experience with Jen, I'll wrap it up with saying, I think that Jen's vision and mission has been an incredible gift, is a word, but it's bigger than a gift. I believe in energy, and I believe in how things we might not see in our life, what will come. But I do believe it has an uplifting energetically and vibrationally for the times we live in. And whatever the message we leave or imprint on that energy has somewhere in the whole universal cosmic realm, it has its imprint. And so nothing is wasted. Nothing we've done with intention and vision is wasted.
Thank you so much, Sally. It was beautiful to hear your stories. And for those of you who don't know Sally's work, you can find her at bluelapislight.org. And she currently continues to do her activism and offer her gifts in that way. Our next speaker is going to be Frieda Werden, who's co-founder and series producer of Wings. Frieda actually did an earlier salon, March of 2021. It is salon number 9, so you can hear more specifically about her work, and you can read more about her on the website. But I want to turn it over to Frieda so that she can share her experience with the foundation and whatever else she'd like to offer. So Frieda, welcome. And welcome to Austin, by the way. She's with us. She's in the house. She's in my house right now in Austin in another room. So welcome, Frieda.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for the gift of being able to be with you and wow, commune after all this time of only seeing you virtually, Letecia. And also an interview with Letecia is in the Wings series, but I don't have the information to tell you right now. Go to wings.org and click archive and look for her. Okay. Wow. I'm still so moved by what Sally said. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around my own experiences with the foundation, but meeting people like Sally, and well, nobody's exactly like Sally, but people women who are committed and doing projects and had strong concepts and who believed in giving, not just simple things, but of their lives to make social change for things to be better for people, to eliminate a nuclear waste dump plan or all these things. I mean, it's just been profound to be associated with Genevieve and the foundation and to, have those contacts. Okay, I'm a radio producer. I've been a radio producer since 1972. And my first radio series was for Longhorn Radio Network. It was called Women Today. And I've been committed to feminism for a long time. When the feminist movement began in Austin in 1969, that was when I thought, oh, I found my people, and not just, my intellectual cohorts, and began to find women that I could really talk to deeply and to really appreciate what women's ideas and actions can be. But anyway, that was just a beginning. And I went to work for NPR for a couple of years, and then I ended up in San Francisco at Western Public Radio, where I was supposed to be the operations manager, and came up with a project for a pilot and got funded by NPR for the pilot of Wings, Women's International News Gathering Service. And that was in 1986. I had wanted to go, I should mention, I had been to the first United Nations World Congress on Women in 1975. And I had really wanted to go to the conference in Nairobi, but I didn't have any way to go there. But we did this radio show. A lot of it was follow-up of the conference in Nairobi. And what was so exciting about that was that in 75, we'd seen women from different countries sort of arguing the politics of their countries and things like that. And by 95, women had gotten together across all these boundaries and had come up with common goals. and declarations and things like that. And we're really pushing these things at the United Nations. And so that was really important to cover. And there was so little coverage of women and women's ideas in any of the media that we thought that there should be something that would keep women in contact with each other, especially American women really needed to keep in touch with other countries because you know, the United States people live in a bubble where they really hardly see any other places except their own. So anyhow, we started Wings, and then the funding was no longer available. In fact, that whole fund was taken away from NPR. And but when we were just getting ready to start Wings, two different women sent us a list of women radio producers that had attended a meeting that Genevieve Vaughan founded, although we didn't really know about Jen. It was one of the meetings that she held in Nairobi at the United Nations Third World Conference on Women. And so anyhow, we wrote to those women, and some of them started sending us audio. And so we put some in the first show, and then we wanted to keep doing more shows. And then, but we didn't have any more grants, and my employer was getting antsy that I was doing programs that didn't have any funding. And then we got a check from an anonymous woman directed to Wings. And it was just so encouraging that somebody out there thought that this was worth continuing. And it really inspired us to continue. And we did get some other funding while we were in California, but it was starting to run out a couple of years later as the whole idea of the World Women's Congress became old news, and nobody, you know, funders are fickle, a lot of them, not Jen though. And so we got invited to come to Texas. My co-founder, Catherine Davenport, and I got invited to come to Texas. And then we met Jen, and we found out that she had a vision about women's radio. And so, you know, she had had that idea probably at least as long as we had, that there needed to be international women's radio. And so anyhow, after making that contact with her and with Sissy, Jen started helping us to do different things. And so she sent me to the World Women's Congress for a Healthy Planet. I mean, I was one of many women that she sent there in 1991, and I got to cover that event. And wow, that was amazing, because that was, you could really see that the environmental movement was so much about women and women's ideas. And those ideas were then taken to the event the next year in Brazil to try to influence the UN vision of how the environment could be protected. Anyhow, that happened. Along the way, Genevieve also sent me to the Philippines. She and Sissy had been calling me to talk about that they wanted to start some kind of an international women's radio station. And so they had made contact with Radio for Peace International shortwave station in Costa Rica. And actually, I think Wings was already on that station. And Jen sent me and the woman who was in the management of that station to the Philippines to a women's media conference there. So that really opened up, you know, my eyes to other contacts and things like that, and did some coverage on that. And then, well, anyway, Catherine Davenport unfortunately died in 1992. And after that, Genevieve asked me to move to Austin and work as an employee for the Foundation for a Compassionate Society. And that was, well, I was talking about how the women's movement created a context of fellowship, if we want to use that word. But it was so wonderful to have an intellectual and an activist home in Austin with all these women, and you've heard about the women were coming from all over the world, and all these different things were going on. And there were women who worked for the foundation who put on all kinds of fascinating events, like Feminist Family Values. I love the name of that. And there were a bunch of speakers, some of them famous and some not famous, who talked about feminist family values in different ways. And then there was a big conference that Bella Abzug came to, and also Vladimir Chernysenko, who had been the physicist who'd been in charge of the Chernobyl cleanup, and they talked about radiation and breast cancer. And anyway, I don't think I have time to list anything like the number of events that we had that I got to cover, both by being sent to them, brought to them, or having them happen right here in Austin. And I put them on the radio. And Wings, I haven't mentioned this, but anyhow, Wings, initially it was intended to be on public radio, but public radio really didn't want anything about women because that was too radical. I mean, this was the 80s. And I think they're still kind of like that, maybe not as much. But anyway, so around that time, shortly after we started Wings, I got in touch with the World Association of Community Radio Broadcasters. And so I discovered that, yeah, community radio was the right outlet for this because they were interested in diversity. They were interested in different perspectives, and they were willing to accept perspectives that criticized or that contradicted the current patriarchal capitalist paradigm. And so we built up a pretty big following in community radio, and not only in the United States, but around the world. And so we had audience, and we used to send out cassettes in the mail, and then later we sent CDs in the mail. And now 35 years later, I think it is 36 years later, we're distributing through the internet and email. And also it's been on some satellites in Australia and the United States. So the shows are still going on. But now, for a while, I didn't have as much contact with Jen, but now since Zoom, there have been all these meetings, and then she started these salons, and the content on these salons is just stunningly good. I've made several radio programs with speakers from the salon, like I'm so pleased about Ibu Robin Lim, the midwife from Indonesia, and what she said about birthing. And you know, you must go back and look at these things either in video, or you can go to wingsradio.org/WordPress. That's our current website, or just to wings.org and click on archive. And you can find a number of these projects that anyway are associated with that. I'm not sure how much time do I have left. Kind of running out of steam here because I've kind of hit the high spots, and I don't know whether to go back and
Talk about Beijing and the other countries.
oh yeah, but first I want to talk about the meetings of the Foundation for a Compassionate Society, because one of the things that happened was Jen brought together all these women from really different circumstances, different cultures, different races, different, well, most of them were kind of in a range of ages. I think she was mostly the oldest one, but I was somewhere near the middle or a little older. But we would sit in a circle and talk about all kinds of things. And I learned so much just from being able to be friends with these women whom in ordinary course of my life, I certainly would never have come to know them and to hear their stories and to see their work. And I never will forget that in one of the meetings, one of the first ones I went to, somebody, I think it might have been Patty Salas, said to me, don't just jump in and say what you want to say as soon as you think it. That you need to leave a little space, because different cultures have different amounts of space that they consider appropriate before they start to speak. So that was an important thing for me to learn, to be silent and wait. And I've taken that with me ever since. Okay, so we're going to talk about Beijing. And what was the other one, Jen? Well, Beijing. All right, so Beijing.
Other conferences too.
Yeah. Oh, well, Sally was talking about the United Nations World Conference on Human Rights. And so I won't go into the things about women there, except I wanted to say that Sissy Farenthold helped me to scatter Catherine Davenport's ashes at the World Conference on Human Rights in Vienna, excuse me. And that was so meaningful because Catherine had such a passion for human rights and for women. And I could think of a better place than to have her ashes there. So anyway, that was very important to me. And then after that, well, Sally also talked about that we went to Croatia and we met with the women refugees, and also we met with women's organization there that was trying to hold women solidarity together across cultural lines. Because, you know, former Yugoslavia was held together really by Tito. And when he died, it started falling apart into conflicts of Serbia really wanted to control everything. Croatia wanted to break away, and there were, you know, cultural differences that became war. And I've forgotten what the rest of the thing I was going to say was, but oh yeah, so this women's organization was trying to keep the communication lines going between women of these different places, but in the end, I think they were unable to go on doing that because the way the hatred was projected to everyone, this made it impossible to do. But I wonder if they're back together now. I hope so. So that happened. Beijing, one of the interesting things about Beijing was that Genevieve sent me to go and to room with Lisa Hayes. And Lisa Hayes is a Black woman from Texas and California who had, I suppose it's not a secret, that she was abducted or seduced into a cult when she was 18 years old and didn't get out until she was 35. And she had been trained by Fern Hill, one of Jen's associates, in video. And when we had the Waterhouse, Lisa was put in charge of the video trainings. And so, but I hadn't really gotten to know her, even though I was doing the audio there. But when we went to China together and roomed together, we really got to know each other a lot more and to know each other's strengths. And so I'm still working with Lisa today. She is putting the Wings archives up on the internet in archive.org, where they can hopefully be available for a really long time. And we've become good friends. I have huge respect for her. So, I mean, it's just one of the people that I met, one of the women that I met through the Foundation for a Compassionate Society. I want to say hi to Ari Chagoya. She may be attending as a visitor on this. She was kind of a wild member of the Foundation for a Compassionate Society, you know, at some of the meetings. She was young and kind of contrarian, but now there's Ari, she said hi, but she's become a doula now. And, you know, we all mature and hopefully get a little better in our lives. Anything else I should mention, Jen?
You'll have time for some last words and also maybe some questions, because there does seem to be quite a few people from, I see Glynis is here and Ari is here. They may have some questions for you during the question and answer time. So
you want to tell me something that I should say. All right.
Okay, thank you so much, Frieda. Our last speaker for today is going to be Chique Estrada. And Chique also did a wonderful salon with Jen in the early part of our, when we began. That's salon number 5, and that was done in January 30th, 2021. I really do hope you'll go back and take a look at that. You can also see her extended bio on the website. But Chique is the owner of La Casa de Bambini in Kyle, Texas, which is a Montessori school. And her mission is supporting children to reach their full potential in a holistic way, which is her passion, and guiding children's self-development by linking them to the activities in a prepared classroom and outdoor environment. And she also teaches them and infuses them with the maternal gift economy. So Chique, please welcome you. I would love to welcome you and have you share whatever it is that you would like to share with us today. And you have about 12 minutes, and that would be great. I'll give you about a 2-minute warning.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me here. It really humbles me to hear the incredible activists that spoke previously, and I feel like I almost do not really belong to that panel. I was really not an activist or participated on it until much later on my life. I'm a native from Guatemala, and our culture trained me to be a woman and stay at home and taking care of the children and not get into anything. So I had very, very little knowledge about political things or human rights and things that I got to learn once I became acquainted with Genevieve and the foundation. I do want to say that I first met Genevieve through a need of a school where I worked, where it was mainly immigrants and people of very low resources. And so it was a school that was founded so the children in that area could have a Montessori education, but the neighborhood was not really aware of any difference from Montessori education, that just a little place where to take your children so you can go to work and they can be just taken care of. And so one of those greater needs, I was shared information from a midwife that knew Genevieve, who Genevieve was also helping at a very crucial time of the midwives. And she gave me Genevieve's telephone, and she said, you know, there's this new philosophy and this new theory, and we're learning about it, and I think that you should call her. And so I really called Genevieve, not really knowing anything of what I was ready to learn of and be part of in many different ways. Not at all as the previous speakers' experiences. You know, I was a mother of 2 children and had to work a full-time job, and so this is how I was working at this little school. So I called Genevieve, and she said, "Okay, well, let's meet real quickly. I haven't done much in education. I'm doing more social things and allowing to women to their voices to be heard. But let's meet for a few minutes and see what you have to say." And so I met with Genevieve, and we had a conversation that lasted maybe like 30 to 45 minutes. And she was willing to help the school to get through the hurdle that we were experiencing because of lack of funding. And so she invited me to come and participate on one of the talks that they were having, where she was relaying to people of this gift economy vision and how it will change the world. Of course, we all know that visionaries start way, way earlier to the time where their vision is going to be crucial. And I believe that this is true for Genevieve as well. So when she was talking about gifting and about not expecting to receive things, and how it was important for the human rights to be given to women and for the women's voices to be heard, as the midwives were experiences, they were going to be banned because the medical institution didn't want midwives having children at home, and they were saying there's too much mortality, and really hiding how much mortality goes in hospitals, but really speaking very loud to cut off midwives at that time. And so I was very glad to see that through the help of Genevieve, they were never banned, and they still work in Austin, and they're still very strong, bringing babies to this world. So that's how I met Genevieve, and I started listening to the theory of gift giving. And of course, I was a recipient in the school beneficiary through that. And the way that I have always participated on social changes is through education, because that's what I have done from early age. And that's pretty much what I felt very confident in. And so I was loving to be the only Montessori school that was bringing Montessori to people that really could not even dream of having that approach to the children. Neither they understood what they were giving to their children, because Montessori was also not very well known. So that community was later condemned by the growth of Austin, and the neighborhoods were being destroyed, and the city will come to the houses of all immigrants and all people with very little resources and condemn their houses, and then offer them a loan with low interest to have a new place to live in, which was very unhuman, because these people was now elderly people that had worked all their life to have this little house. And because now Austin is growing and they're putting the airport, they need to displace the community. And they do that on communities that do not have very much voice, because when you are not educated, then you don't know how to organize. And so I was learning through coming to the meetings that Genevieve facilitated, and meeting some of the women that work with her, participating on the Women in Black and protesting. And, that there was all of this in life that I have never even thought of, that was super important, and that just as education did not really have a place and a voice, because the patriarchy system was trying to keep it invisible and keep it little and keep it oppressed. And what I noticed is that Genevieve, through all this gifting, was giving arenas to many people of different backgrounds to go and express this and increase the knowledge of what giving can do to change a society. And I, through seeing many of the women that work with her in many of the program, became a true believer of gift economy. But because of the financial level that I live in, I thought, but how do people do this? Only very wealthy people can give, because this money-driven world makes us have to have money to participate and to open venues and to make our voices be heard. And so I enjoy participating and hearing of all the changes they were bringing. And I was part of the foundation at a much later time than many of the people. I was just kind of like a visitor and a hearer and a learning what gift economy is, because honestly, the first time that I learned about gift economy, it took me a long time to even understand why and the purpose of it, and why the importance of it. And then why it was not just money, but it was also different gifts. And so you have this incredible story of Sally through her life and through her arts, and through the possibility that through her arts change things and bring awareness to many people in many different places of the earth. Just like we hear from Frieda of how many opportunities she had of going places and participated. And so I always wanted to be a part of giving to the world and be a part of changes of social things. But I did not have the background of this woman, neither the position of being able to go and talk and educate myself and learn more about political things, because I was always on the going to work and taking care of the children and come back and get things ready to go back to work. And so I thought, well, Montessori is the way that I know how to create changes, by allowing the children to know at an early age all kinds of realities that we're not told because they're grotesque, but you can tell them without going to the gory part of it. And so I start making a point on something that I did is I get the books that Genevieve have written for children, and I start reading them with them, and then we will stop and talk about it. And one of the children books that she wrote is very impressive to children and really to grown-ups as well, because at the end, when we do not participate of gift giving and gift economy and this maternal gift economy that is so important, then it ends up in blackness and we destroy the earth. Everything is gone. And now here we are, a big, intense, deep darkness. And then on the other side of the book, it has this story where they become aware of needs, they become aware of communities, they become aware of standing on their feet and things that they believe. And of course, these are little children, but you're hoping that you're putting the seed and they will grow up to be strong people in the communities that will bring changes on all the different areas that they have in their life. And so I have been passionate on hearing how much the foundation was created to bring the theory of the gift economy for us to realize that we are doing gift economy, but we're invisible because patriarchy wants to keep us invisible, and how important the movements that all these wonderful, incredible ladies have gotten into to promote it and to let the world know about it. And I remember from the middle 1980s to how we understood gift economy, and through the work of the foundation, how it became a world spread thing. We see many people that is trying to mimic what Genevieve has been talking about for many years. And I just feel like I have been blessed to have the knowledge of one of the very important things, which is the maternal way of seeing life and seeing people and living that will bring it to the world in a loving and compassionate way. And our world is not interested in compassion, but through being part of the gift economy and the foundation, we know that people has great compassion, but we talk very little about it. And compassion is something that it will be contagious to other people, and we all will want to do it if we only hear it. And so I felt that I was given the opportunity to be part of a foundation that was having such a great woman and with such a great movement and in such many different ways. And so at a point of my life when the school that I work for was being taken by the city because they had founded us, and I felt that they felt very uncomfortable to having a Hispanic woman running such a school because it had become very prestigious. They had this plan to displace me from it. It didn't matter of the years that I had put on work and what I had brought to the school. And so at those very crucial times of my life, I talked to Genevieve, and she said that she will be willing to help me to bring gift economy and have this project as always giving and receiving and giving and receiving, and many planes, as an individual, as a community, as the parents and the children in the school, and how we will all learn together to give and to receive. And so I was given the opportunity to have this building where I still run the school, and I'm still given the opportunity to continue to work with parents. And through my work with them, I have noticed that many of the foundation teachings are teachings that are very very important in Montessori, like to educate your minds, to enjoy a different way of living, and not the patriarchal living that is just established and put on us, but know that there's other way to give in. It also the foundation taught me that when you are being a receiver, the giver is not taking your dignity away to it, but it's enhancing it so you can be who you are and give what you can give in a much better way. It's almost like a free, it frees us to free you to be yourself and be able to participate on this beautiful paradigm of giving in whichever gift you have in your life. And
Thank
so
you, Chique. I think that, can you bring it to a close in 1 minute?
I surely will. I feel honored to be here, and I know that the school has even been able to cooperate with thousands and thousands of dollars to the community, as well as in teaching the children to be community oriented, to be sensitive to other needs, and to have compassion and love for people. It doesn't matter if they're different beliefs, if they're different races, if they're different opinions, different parts of the world, different political arenas, we can all unite in the maternal gift economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chique. It's really wonderful. And again, I just want to remind you that if you want to learn more about the school itself, take a look at maternalgifteconomymovement.org to past salons, Chique's talk is in Salon number 5, and she tells you about the work that she does with the children, and it's beautiful. So thank you very much. But Jen, before we actually open up to questions, is there anything else that you'd like to offer to the group before we take a few questions?
Well, not really, except to say thank you to all of you. And it's just wonderful to hear again and again the beautiful things that you've done. And I feel privileged to have been part of it. And thank you. I did love what Chique just said at the end, which is that receiving doesn't take your dignity away. You're free then, you're free to receive and free to give again. And that's the one great aspect of freedom, is the freedom to give and receive, not just the freedom of a country or something which is usually not even really having to do with freedom. So that I appreciate very much all of your all's talks and all the collaboration with all of you from these many years.
Thank you so much, Jen. And just so you know, those of you viewing today with us in the room and those of you who are viewing the recording, there is a potential. There were so many women who were involved in the foundation that we're considering actually doing a part 2 with other participants who were in the foundation to be able to share their stories again, because you can see these 3 women, well, of course, Jen, the 4 women here continue from the foundation are still gifters. They're still involved in their own way. Even if the foundation isn't here, they have found a way to actually extend that into the world. And it's an invitation to all of us to dig real deep. So thank you all for your great stories and your words and your memories. And most of all, for the change that you've affected in the world today. It's just stunning and beautiful. We do have a couple of questions that are in the chat box, and I'm wondering, Judith, did you want to?
It sounds to me from what's happening in the chat box that many of you, of the people who are in the audience, knew a lot of the people, some of the speakers. And so I wondered if maybe we could start with the speakers bringing us up to date on how your lives have been affected by gifting and how they've, where they've gone since the foundation. Just a sort of a quick update for people who didn't know you and for people who did.
Okay, well, Sally, would you like to just give us a little update where you are today? And we know that you have to leave early, so that's why I'm calling on you first.
So how I have continued and been inspired to do so is we have a 3,000 square foot aerial studio. We work in the community with Safe Place, with LifeWorks, with the Austin Children's Shelter, and with the community to teach aerial silks and dance. And within those classes, we invite the children to tell stories. So we make choreography with them, and then they do a performance. And in many ways, it teaches them, it connects them in a deeper way because they're open up, sharing. And then we make movement and we ask them to come up with a movement and we put it all together. And then the large site works, we dance on federal buildings, on the water, on the columns under the bridges, on banks, on government buildings. And every piece I'm making has a story and a concept, and it has to deal with opening. It tells the human story into transformation. And if you go to our website, you can see some of that. It's bluelapislight.org. And also when I'm working with all the dancers or when I talk on TV about the work, I always always bring attention to the bigger whole painting of the world we're living in, and not just, I'm not interested in being an artist that's, oh, isn't this a nice dance? I'm interested in making messages that have about peace and compassion and kindness in our world. And again, you know, I believe that every small act that each of us do, you know, is important. How our thoughts, our energy, and our intentions about how we live our lives. And so in that way, you know, I started programs in the jails, in halfway houses, all kinds of things. So yes, that's how I contribute. And it's not me, I think it becomes, the I becomes so much bigger than oneself when you're collaborating and when you're, you know, empowering others to give their gifts. You know, so if I'm there and I have a vision and an idea and then we're on a building and I'll say to the dancers, hey, what's coming through here? What, try this movement, try that movement, you participate, give me. So it's a really, it's a really collaboration. And that's why I really always put it's a collaboration in all the programs. And also in all our programs, there's always a mission that I write about this stuff. What's going on in our environment, what's going on in human rights. I mean, what's happening in our world right now, you know, I think we need to, I don't know what the strategy is, except these acts that we do within ourselves, because I don't believe in the current government in this country. And fascism is a global issue happening very rapidly, and, and war and violence and shootings increasing. So I don't know what that conversation is about. Do they even care when we protest? No. So, I mean, that's a discussion. And I don't want to sound hopeless or anything, but I do know in my world or in the world of others, all of us, you know, what we do within our own world is really, has effect. I believe that. Otherwise, what are we doing? So.
Absolutely, Sally. Thank you so much for that powerful work.
I thank all of you so much. It was lovely seeing you, Frieda and Chique and Genevieve. I'm going to stop by and see you.
Beautiful. All right, Sally, take care. And thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And we'll see you again.
Yes.
Bye for now.
Yes.
Frieda, would you like to respond to that? And then I'll have.
Yeah, so lately, well, after the foundation officially, well, I don't know, foundation didn't officially close until 2005, but at one point there were 27 people working for the foundation, and then it got to be pared down from that. And I ended up moving to Canada, working at a community radio station, training young people and so not so young ones to produce radio, and retired to an island, and all the while continued to be the series producer for Wings, and still am, and I'm really grateful for the support that's still receiving. And just want to say that we always said that Wings was only a drop in the bucket of the coverage that was needed of women and women's issues and the global women's movement. But at least if there's a drop in the bucket, you know what water is. And so that we're still putting drops in that bucket. And some of the things that we broadcast now were recorded during the days of the foundation, because that wisdom needs to be repeated for other generations. The erasure of women and women's ideas and women's experiences and women's history are all continuing. And or if they're not erased, they're perverted in various ways so that they don't inspire anymore. So we feel it needs to keep going. And just from conversations around here, I realized that I need to work more on training successors. I'm working with younger women, but I think I'm going to try to get the different producers in different parts of the world together on Zoom now and see if we can recreate some of the cross-fertilization and camaraderie that I enjoyed in the foundation.
Beautiful. Thank you, Frieda. How about you, Chique? Where are you today? Exactly what's happening since the foundation sort of closed, and your school though is thriving, isn't it? It's still going on.
Yes. I think I'm gonna repeat myself, but I'm still really now with a lot more knowledge that educating young children and changing their minds to be surrounded with ideas of compassion and love and community and not competing but participating with each other is very important. And I feel like we continue to do that year after year. We have the privilege of having children 3 years or 4 years in the school when they are in a very early age and they are forming their character. And so the opportunity to share with these children, the giving is a beautiful thing. And then you have the parents who are grown-ups that are very preoccupied with the money and the status and the thing, and then you talk to them about this different way of seeing life, and you like Frieda say, there is this little drop that you put in there about the maternal gift economy, and you hope that they will be curious and read more and get more acquainted. And we try to do that through things in the school. And I was very thrilled to see that a church in Kyle copy our garage giving that was something really different to what people does to get rid of their old clothes and have money to buy new things. We were just giving it to whoever needed it and wanted it, and we were not asking for anything in return. And so, the children love to offer food to them and just be part of the community. And I thought, in this big church in Kyle now is having a garage giving of themselves. And I thought, oh, wow, that is so cool that, you get to see how there are replicas of little things that are done to show how much more important is giving than receiving. Of course, is a giving and receiving, just like the earth does with humans. But, it's important to know that you can give. And so I am very blessed and fortunate by what Genevieve opened for me to give this kind of philosophy to the children at a very early age, to share it with the grown-ups, to tell them about the foundation, and to send them to the website and to share the books that she has written with them, and to try to practice it on the community and see how other people is mimicking. And also something that, because being a person with not too many resources, I never thought that the school could actually participate in giving thousands and thousands of dollars year after year after year to families that could not afford Montessori. And so I feel that I am in a place where I have experienced gift economy in so many ways that has become a way of life, which is what we want philosophies to be. And I'm so thankful of Genevieve and her willingness to share this gift with all of us.
Thank you, Chique. And you keep saying that it's a small thing, but it isn't a small thing. This is the idea that the drop in the bucket becomes a full bucket. So, we just need to recognize that we each are a drop and that we can fill that bucket up as we actually work together. So that's just beautiful. Thank you so much. Really, it's really beautiful. Jen, for those of you who haven't visited the original, it's called, I think it's gift_economy.
Gift-economy.
Okay, gift-economy.com. And there are many examples there that you can watch the videos. I saw mention the Feminist Family Values Conference, and those videos they're fabulous videos. It must watch if you haven't seen it. But these were many of the pieces that the society, the Foundation for Compassionate Society actually participated in, were recorded by Frieda and others that you can still receive the gift of. So, and Jen, is there anything that you would like to say of what you've done? What were you inspired to do when you actually closed down the foundation? You knew your work wasn't done. You didn't stop working.
No, I thought that that really it was time to explain the gift economy more. I had done the practice, and so then I had to do the theory more. And so I wrote books. I have written now 3 books, and I have written many essays. And we have also, I co-created this group, International Feminists for a Gift Economy, of activists and academics who have gone around and spoken about the gift economy at a lot of different conferences, both academic conferences and conferences like the World Social Forum and so on. So we've had a way of trying to get the word out and show that there is this other paradigm. And yeah, I've been trying to do that for a long time. People used to say, "Oh, you're so generous." And I said, "No, I'm a revolutionary." And so it really is a question of trying to create a revolution of kindness, a revolution, a maternal revolution, one of care, where our society as it is a cruel society, not a compassionate society. And we have to change that, or we're gonna all die. The whole planet is gonna die. And I care too much about the planet to let that happen, and to the future people. And I know most people do. It's just we're caught in the wrong system, which keeps on reprogramming us to do bad things and create wars and exploit each other. So we need to have the theory and the practice that take us away from the kinds of actions and kinds of thinking we're doing now. And I hope we can, and I do think we need this revolution of care and kindness, and it needs to be very deep, not just a superficial thing, not just something where you pay people more if they're doing more giving. It's, you have to alter the whole setup where it's based on giving and not on exchange, quid pro quo, and so on. So we have to liberate that, liberate the gift and see it where it already exists, because it's everywhere in nature and in our own perceptions and in language. I think that the gift has been washed out of our academic paradigms, and we don't see it there at all, because of misogyny for thousands of years. But we're still doing it, and it's still there in us and in the world around us. And it's our duty and our own gift, a gift to us, to be able to do something about it.
Thank you, Jen. Judith, I'm wondering if you have another question you'd like to pose to the group.
Glynis Christine writes, Jen, I once talked with you briefly about why you feel more committed to using your financial resources to make social change rather than giving money directly to individuals. You were so eloquent and clear about that perspective. Would you share it with us today? So the question is, if you have resources that you would like to donate, giving them to an organization or a person that is committed to social change rather than some other use of those resources.
Yes, because I think the system that we're in is what has to change. And so activism, social change, processes and projects are important because they change the big picture within which everybody is suffering. And so if you help one person, that person gets better perhaps, but they are within an exploitative system. It's kind of the same as where, you know, the United States, the corporations in the United States exploit other countries. And then we are angry at those other countries because immigrants come to the United States from there. But we don't realize how the system itself is creating the problems that the individuals have. And so that's why I want to change the system, but I do give to individuals who want to change the system and are working on those projects, so that you can do kind of both together, because individuals who want to change the system also need to live in the system, as we all do. So, or find a way out of it, which does sometimes give a different model, but it doesn't necessarily change the system itself, except, you know, through that modeling.
Thank you, Jen. Judith, do you have another question that you'd like to pose for Jen or the women in the group, Frieda and Chique, who are left from the foundation?
Laura Moore brings up an issue that hasn't come up yet, and that is she says Jen was an early and cherished funder of the National Clearinghouse on marital rape efforts. And salute also to Sarah Weddington, who introduced legislation early on in the 70s in Texas to make marital rape a crime, and to Eddie Bernice Johnson, who was a supporter as well. So the issue of rape, and particularly of marital rape, as one of the issues that was dealt with by the foundation.
Well, yeah, that was a part of the foundation funding, not necessarily of the foundation as a group of activists, which was the group of activists is part of a private operating foundation, while the other is the foundation that actually gave funds to different groups. And that was part of the marital rape part, was part of that. You know, the society has a lot of awful aspects. And I think has been important to clarify and throw light on those horrible aspects, like marital rape. And feminists have done that. And it's been very important for feminists to reveal a lot of the really awful sides of patriarchy, because people weren't thinking of them and didn't really realize it. And so that was a reason why I wanted to support that work. And other evils like that. It was important, and still is, to throw light on them, as it is important to throw light on the alternatives and on a positive way of behaving, which I think the foundation did do.
Thanks, Jen. I see that we only have maybe about 8 minutes left, or 6 minutes left, actually. I need a few minutes to actually close this out. So Jen, while you're on the screen, did you have some closing words that you'd like to offer? And would you like Frieda or Chique to go, and then you can close us out? How's that?
I'd rather do that, yeah.
All right. So Frieda, are there some closing words you'd like to offer to the group about anything you'd like to say in closing?
Yeah, I made little notes all over the place, which who knows where they are now. I wanted to say one thing, that Wings is free. It's always been free to the community radio stations, although some of them do make donations. And I wanted to say also, where was it? Oh yeah, I wanted to tell a little bit just the story of Techno Mama, because I thought it was so great. One of the women that I met there, who unfortunately has since passed on, was Anna Sisnet. And she and Giselle Mills, with whom I'm still in touch on Facebook, Genevieve gave them the responsibility to take, you laughing? The responsibility to take computers to women's organizations and teach them how to use it. And from that, Anna became, well, their group team became known as Techno Mama. And then Anna later started free access and training internet in East Austin, and has left a huge mark. So helping make this transition, I mean, I think communications has always been a big part of Jen's interests, and certainly that was part of it. And then also related to that, Jen was saying to me that she's working with some women in Italy who want to start a radio station online. And we're still fantasizing, and maybe we'll make it happen, to have an international women's radio station. Online would certainly be easier than trying to get a shortwave license or something like that. Then more people would see it.
Thank you, Frieda. Chique, would you like to offer some closing words to the group?
For some reason, this salon has been very emotional to me. And I think that is because to have heard Sally and Frieda and remember, and Genevieve, and remember so many of the incredible things that the foundation through Genevieve and make it happen. I just really, right now, I'm feeling very full of admiration for all these women and for all the work that Genevieve has done and has touched communities and individuals and great groups of people and small groups of people. And I am just so, I admire how she has given the wisdom to practice it first, then write about it so we can understand it. And I just hope that that she formed a school that will teach young people about gift economy. So this is, because this is something that, as we can see right now, is very much needed. And it seems like gift economy solution is going to be the only good thing that it's going to save the world for all this craziness that we're living in. And so I see the urgent of Genevieve training people and bring them all these awesome people that he has been around to teach them to continue to make maternal gift economy a way of life, and instead of just a philosophy that sits at the library that we can read about.
Thank you so much, Chique.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, Jen, are you ready?
Well, I'm not really. I mean, I'm pretty much overwhelmed too by everything everybody has said, and remembering it all, and just knowing how precious everybody is, each one of you, and all of that, and how lucky I have been to be able to do this. I mean, I got started and I just sort of followed my nose, and look what happened. You know, it's been fantastic. yeah, I'm 82, and I just think, oh, how lucky I am, you know, to be this age, and so happy to have known all the people I've known and been able to do something that could still be useful, because we are in such a terrible situation. And it's also been fun, you know, in so many ways. We've had a good time doing it with good people, with each other. And there was a woman that was the secretary, Sissy's secretary. Her name was Jane Greer. And she said that, you know, some people live lives of quiet desperation, but that is surely not us. And it's true, the more you do, the more hope you get. If you don't do anything, you end up being really sad. And so that's all I can say, is that it's lovely to, well, not even that, I'm happy, so happy to have been part of the organization with all of you all, and to be able to keep on doing it. And thanks to Letecia and Diane and Liliana and everybody, and Judith and Elena Skoko, the women that are putting on these salons. It's been wonderful to be able to talk about it to people now, an audience now on Zoom, and to people of the future who may watch it on YouTube. Whatever decade you're in, you know, it's so wonderful to have a voice. Yeah, somebody once said, the greatest gift that you can give to a woman is the floor. And it is, you know, now this is a women's floor that we're speaking from. And I think women are the key, the gift economy that we're all born into that model of gifting. We all receive it as children, because if not, we don't survive. That is the model of the way out of what patriarchy and capitalism have damned us into. So thank you very much, everyone. I am very grateful.
Thank you so much, Jen. I would just like to say a few words about our summer. We are actually taking the summer off. Today is the last live session that we're going to have until September. So I want to invite you, since the COVID restrictions have been lifted, to really enjoy your summer and take really, really good care of yourself, and take the opportunity to revisit our recordings on the maternalgifteconomymovement.org. There will be 34 of them up. And our conferences are there. We have 2 conferences and a special event that we did with Darsha Navarez and 4 Arrows with their new book, which was fabulous. I want to just really thank our speakers, Genevieve, Vaughan, Sally Jacques, Frieda, Werden, and Chique, Estrada. And we hope that you will consider doing a part 2 with other stories of women who did experience, and hear again more of what the foundation has inspired in the work that these women continue in the world, because this is how the gift economy blossoms. I want to thank Judith for paying attention to the chat and the Q&A. And for those of you whose questions did not get answered or comments didn't get read, please, I want to invite you to write to us at the maternalgifteconomy@gmail.com. And we can respond to you there. I want to thank Diana for your support. We always feel held by you, the International Gift Economy Network, and each of you for joining us, and Liliana for always providing us with beautiful artwork for our salons. So in September, we'll be back for our salon number 35. Today's recording is going to be up at maternalgifteconomymovement.org. And at the website, if you want to be notified of our upcoming events, you need to join our mailing list. So please do so that you can stay on top of what we're up to. So everyone, enjoy your summer, be well, and be kind to one another. And we'll see you in September. Bye for now. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.